Hi, this is Grover with Blue Collar Codes, the quick and dirty. This is the first aside that's just going to go briefly into what I'm about and why it's called Blue Collar Codes, the quick and dirty, and how I recommend you learn and start learning Python from scratch. So, a bit about myself. I'm Grover again. I worked in manufacturing for about 14 years, managed a machine shop, very technical, hands on. So, I ran machines, made part programs, used the CMM to check the parts, poured parts. We made parts out of lead for the medical industry, and that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to get away from that environment and why I started teaching myself Python. So, about 3 years ago, it's 2025 now, so 2022, I purchased a book called Learning Python by Mark Lutz, just because my generation loves buying, physical books and those five-star binders. Just got to use them. At least then, I thought that I had to do that way. And so 1,300 pages later, a lot of other side projects and leak code problems later, I find myself much more proficient at the language, although you're always learning in this field, which is also one of the draws, right? So that's how I learned Python, but I definitely found that it's not the most efficient, and there was a lot of time waste involved. So in that textbook, he would jump around all the time, mentioning this and that theory based thing that you need to learn, in chapter 37, but he's mentioning it in chapter 6 with like a 3 page, aside about that topic. And you don't know, like, okay, is this, as a fresh off the presses, right out of the box beginner, like, do you know if that's something you need to read right now? You want to become a master at the language, so you don't know, like, all right, so I'll read about it now, even though it doesn't make any sense, and I have to look up like every fifth word because it's very technical and dense. You don't know if you really need to know it or not, so you try it anyway, and you waste a lot of time. And I feel like that's what happens with a lot of these online videos too. You're wasting time looking at a guy talk or a gal, and it's time waste. Where that's why I wanted to make these short, sweet, quick and dirty, blue collar codes to show you that anybody can learn it. There's resources out there, quick and dirty, because I want it to be just small, manageable chunks that are really dense with utility and very little theory right now, especially in the beginning episodes. I do have experience. I made a program with a GUI with tkinter, and then I also made a web application or a website called visions.fit. And so I do want to delve into different learning pathways. One for just going deeper into tkinter because I personally want to know it better, as well as going in deeper with Flask and MongoDB and Django for Python stack for web development. And so this was just a small aside trying to showcase for you the reasoning behind why I made these videos. I want short, manageable chunks. You go through the beginner series, which should be about an hour in full, and you should be at a point where you can just choose your own problems you want to solve to go off into a different direction and start using the language to see what it's capable of. And that's definitely what I would recommend is once you get to a certain level of understanding, like you know how to make functions, you know how to make basic classes, and you know how to do looping constructs and use conditional statements, and you know fairly well how to use the core data types, then you need to find a problem to solve. Whether it's something you've always wanted to do, or you have a data set that you want to analyze, or anything. You need to choose a project for yourself, and that'll really spearhead you into a much denser or much more gratifying learning experience because you're going to learn the skills that you want to be able to accomplish with later on in your learning career. So again, Grover, Blue Collar Codes, the quick and dirty. I hope this aside gave you a little bit more input into who I am and what I'm trying to do with these videos, and I hope to see you again. Thank you.